Hey guys, I am back in the immersion zone with two special guests here today. We're going to talk about SSIS and ADF, so if you guys can introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Mike Flasko. I run the program management team for SSIS, ADF, and a few other information management things at Microsoft.
And I'm Sanjay Krishnamurthi. I run the engineering team for ADF and SSIS.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time here to chat with me today. So there have been a couple of really cool announcements this week about SSIS and ADF, well, mainly ADF version 2. So Mike, you did a session on that earlier today. Can you run us through kind of the main points and what's coming up in this version 2?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So we talked about a few different things, right? I think the biggest thing that we did was we released Adf V2. Adf V2 has a few kind of defining characteristics to it. The first is, for those that know Adf V1, you created data integration flows. We called them pipelines. And we've got a new application model for pipelines in Adf V2, very similar to what you might be used to with like control flows in SSIS, and so you can kind of think of it as scale-out control flow. So new application model, much more flexible than V1, as one of the big pieces. I'd say the other big piece is we've introduced the ability to run SSIS packages inside of Adf V2, and the goal there really being, as and when you're interested in moving your existing on-prem SSIS solutions up into the cloud, we've got a nice seamless way for you to run SSIS packages in the cloud in a fully managed environment. You don't have to create IaaS VMs, manage infrastructure, etc. But now you can run packages or pipelines now up into Adf V2. And so that was one of the big announcements, and we drilled into it in the session today.
That's really cool. And for those of you watching this, that session will be available very soon on demand, so you can dig into all the details. And then, so you showed us some of the new tools that you might be able to use. And for me, looking at that, it looked like it's kind of moving in the same direction as we're used to with SSIS, with more of a visual control flow, data flow. Can you just talk us through how that works and how you might use that in ADF?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Sanjay, do you want to take that one?
So what Mike showed today was the control flow capability, where you can visually do the control flow. And as Mike said, it's essentially you have a design canvas which is on the web, and you can use that to design what we call data pipelines, which consists of a set of activities. These activities can be things like transformations or data movement activities, and that's something that we are going to be making part of the public preview very soon in next couple of coming months. And our eventual goal is to take it to a capability where you can design your data flows also using the same design canvas. So you can do not only can you do your data movement, you can also do your data transformation. So one way to think of that is design surface that you used to in SSIS available in the cloud.
I would say one other item that we're trying to do with the tools is also all of the setup and configuration in terms of once you've got a data factory, wiring it to all of the other Azure services that you want to, configuring your SSIS node. So in addition to all the authoring and monitoring that Sanjay was mentioning, we're going to make all of that setup stuff visual as well. You can obviously script it if you'd like, or you can point and click.
That's very cool. And you also showed us some demos, and I think you use Visual Studio Code and Python scripts. Do you want to kind of explain what you did in that demo?
Sure, yeah, I can do that one, sure. So yeah, with the new app model that we have in Data Factory and the support for SSIS packages, we've also created new SDKs. So for those that want a programmatic experience for creating pipelines, running pipelines, managing pipelines, working with the SSIS environment, setting it up, getting it up, resizing it, etc. We now have a Python SDK as well as .NET and PowerShell. And today what we showed was just kind of a lap around the Python SDK. And we kind of showed how easy it is to create a factory, link it to a bunch of resources. I think it was an Amazon S3 account and a Blob Store account, an HD Insight account, and then just in code create a pipeline, step by step, and execute it. And so the idea there was, if you're an ISV, maybe making a back end of a SaaS application where there's a lot of data integration, and you really need that to be, you need almost data integration as an engine, if you will, to drive programmatically, we're trying to make that as easy as possible. And we heard a lot of asks for Python. Java will also come in the future.
Very cool. So it's possible to use both the visual designer and do it programmatically. So people have the option of doing both. That's really great. And then I'm wondering, can either of you talk a little bit about setting this up? How does it actually work when you have these, on premises and you have things in the cloud, and how that actually talks to each other? How you make that work?
Sure. So in terms of the setup looks very much like what you do in Adf V1 in the cloud, where essentially once you provision Data Factory, that gives you an account in the cloud, and then you can provision what we call an integration runtime, and that integration runtime is where you can run various data activities, whether it's Ssis Packages, and if your data is on premise, then you can use the integration runtime that's self-hosted on your premise behind your firewall, and then you can move data transparently from there to the cloud. But if you need to move data between cloud data sources, then it can be Azure managed and hosted in Azure by us.
Very good. And then you also talked about the SSIS lift and shift, or is it shift and lift? Lift and shift? Whatever.
Shift sounds good. Yeah.
And running SSIS packages in ADF right now, and that's something new coming up. So what was the reason that you decided to do that and kind of merge those two, and how does it work?
Sure, yeah, happy to. So from the point of view of somebody who has been using SSIS for a while, on-prem, got a lot of investment there, we had heard a lot of feedback around when a customer wants to move to the cloud, there's just too much friction there, which was, I've got a lot of investment, it works fine, it works great on-prem, and if I just don't want to be managing my own hardware anymore and patching the software, etc., and I want to move up to the cloud for that reason, it was just too much friction. And so what we really shot for is this kind of, lift and shift, or lift your package to the cloud, was this notion of, if you want to run up on a managed environment in the Azure cloud, and you've got an existing system that works well, you should be able to do that easily without a bunch of friction and changes, to get the same thing you had running on-prem up in the cloud. And so that was the motivation behind SSIS support in the cloud. And so we're really trying hard to kind of enable that level of compatibility between Windows, Linux, cloud. And so you've got a lot of choice now on where you can run your SSIS packages. And the idea of putting it in Adf V2 was we were trying to get it so that you can have one integration option in the cloud, which is your Data Factory account. And then what we've done, as Sanjay was mentioning, was we introduced this concept as an integration runtime. And the idea there is the integration runtime knows how to do a number of things, and it's just allowing you to select the right tool for the scenario. And so when we've got, a cloud ISV trying to scale to, thousands of customers and thousands of pipelines to create them and destruct them, that's where we think our serverless approach with ADF pipelines in the cloud works really well. But if you're doing your data warehouse flow that you've been doing all the time with SSIS, you've got a great visual experience, you've got a data transformation engine, it works seamlessly with SQL Server. We wanted to make it easy for you to continue to use those investments forward. And so right now you'll see an option for pipelines and packages, and the ability to work them together is light right now. But we've gotten some feedback around, if, from a package, I'd like to be able to call a pipeline. I'd like to be able to reuse some of my packages as steps in a overall pipeline. Or probably the most common thing we've heard is, as you move up into the cloud, wanting to be able to trigger those packages using the native triggers of ADF, because we built a bunch of native triggers, for pipelines in ADF that don't yet wire to SSIS packages. So what you might do in SQL Agent or other type of triggering you'd want. So we think there's a lot of ability to kind of leverage some of the capabilities in both cases, and it was really just giving you a set of options for kind of the right tool for the job. And one of the things that we're working on right now is prescriptive guidance, so that people can understand what the capabilities are, when to use what, and we'll publish that up on Azure.com as well.
And then all of this is in public preview right now during Microsoft Ignite, and we're looking at release in a couple of months-ish. I know you don't want to set a certain date on that. I know how that works. But can you tell us a little bit about the roadmap ahead and maybe the next year or so, where you want to go with ADF V2?
Yeah. So I think there are always both sort of depth and breadth in terms of connecting to different data sources. So we'll continue to invest in being able to connect to different data sources. And as you connect to these data sources, you also want to improve performance. So that's one of the things that we'll focus on. What we showed this week, or what we showed today, is essentially a preview, right, in terms of the control flow. We want to complete all of that. As Mike mentioned earlier, we want to introduce new trigger types so you can have different ways of triggering your pipelines. And then eventually we want to also get to the point where all your data flow can also be authored in a completely code-free way. And we'll provide a scale-out engine where the data transformations can run, leveraging one of the other technologies that we have on Azure. And then I would say longer term, we want to be able to go from transformation to data discovery as well, and bring other things like our data catalog into mix as well. So the roadmap is essentially getting to a full, complete information management platform on Azure, which includes things like data movement, data transformation, as well as data discovery.
Great. Sounds very interesting. And then just to wrap things up here, I just want to talk to you guys about your experience here at Microsoft Ignite, because it's a huge conference and there are a lot of things. So for you working, on Adf, and I'm sure your head's down in that most of the time, how is Microsoft Ignite for you? Do you go and attend any other sessions on other topics? How has that been for you here?
So I guess, to answer the specific question, for me, I always get a lot out of just being able to interact with all of our customers. So, it's always fun to be able to deliver the session on the new stuff that your team's been working on for a very long time. And so I think that's very motivating. But we get a lot out of just these interactions where we can, talk to our customers and partners and, get a firsthand feel for, what's working, what isn't working, what do they need. I think that's probably one of the most exciting parts for me at these events, is having all of these interactions, between the sessions and over lunch and that kind of stuff. And do I attend sessions? Yeah, absolutely. I attend sessions whenever I can. I attend sessions. Like I'm sure as you know, it's so easy to get so deep in your field, and it's always interesting to learn more about the other pieces around. So I try and attend some of the sessions that are well outside of my field, just for an interest perspective. It's just kind of cool.
For me, it's actually the first Microsoft Ignite. Yes, and it's been very different in the sense it's a much larger scale. But again, given that we have tunnel vision on ADF, I think that's been the main, and interacting with the customers who want to move from SSIS onto the cloud, or move from Adf V1 to V2. That's been the main focus. But I try to attend some sister sessions where typically you don't get enough time to focus on other things that's happening within the company, so this is a good opportunity for me to figure that out.
Right. And I saw that during your session today. You had, I think we spent half an hour going through questions at the end. People were coming up and asking, and you were stuck for probably another half hour outside the session room. So people are really interested in this. And if there are anyone watching here who wasn't able to attend Microsoft Ignite, is there a way for them to reach out to you if they have any questions or any feedback on the product?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if the volume of questions is good or bad about my session. Maybe I didn't cover critical material or something, but it was fun to see all of the interaction at the end. I think it was really motivating for us. But absolutely, if there's questions, comments that people want help with, you can send me a tweet or send me an email. The deck is made available that has my contact information, but it's mike.flasko@microsoft.com or @mflasko. And I'm happy to route whatever questions folks have to the experts on our team who can help them best. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Ignite.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.